Psychopaths dominate business because they never hit ceilings. They never sabotage themselves. They never get stuck. Why? Because the brain doesn't flag business outcomes as personal threats. So they never get in their own way. In this video, I'll show you how to rewire your brain to steal a psychopath's edge without becoming one. Now, quick pause. If you're actually serious about executing with peak clarity, focus, and consistency every single day, with what hundreds of founders remove procrastination and burnout by about 90%, triple the productivity within about 6 weeks. And we're rated 4.7 on Trustpilot. So if you truly want to succeed fast, the easy way, book a call with us. Because if you've been stuck at the same revenue number for a number of months or years, you know the problem isn't your strategy. You know exactly what to do to break through. Launch the outreach campaign, or build a system so you stop being the bottleneck, or hire a key person for the operation team, or kill the failing project. But you can't do it because something inside of you resisted. You know that outreach is the way to scale, but you can't start it. You've been thinking about firing that person for 4 months, but it feels cruel. You keep funding that project even if it's bleeding money, because killing it means admitting you were wrong. And this is not a personal weakness. This is just how the human brain works. An untrained brain fuses identity with outcomes. So every mistake you make feels like a referendum on your self-worth. Every time you need to course correct, it feels like you're betraying yourself. And every hard call feels like you're becoming someone you don't want to be. And all of this creates emotional resistance, which psychopaths don't have when they're scaling. But when they make mistakes, their amygdala literally doesn't fire, it stays quiet. So if they need to fire someone, it's just data. That person is not delivering output, so they fire it. If they need to kill a project, that's okay. The hypothesis was wrong, and on to the next experiment. There's zero emotional load, pure, clean execution. Now, this is not because they don't feel. No, it's because their brain works differently. The brain doesn't flag outcomes as threats, and that is a trainable skill. Because if you don't train that skill, your brain goes like this when trying to execute on hard tasks. You sit down to make that outreach to the influencer that you know could 10x your business, the one you've been researching for weeks. So the moment you need to actually do it, your body flags danger. So you negotiate with yourself and do something else. And that is the execution gap that kills businesses, that psychopaths never face. Right now, here's your decision pattern. First, you recognize what needs to be done. Then your body flags that as a threat. Then you rationalize a delay, maybe one more day, one more week. Then 4 weeks pass without that getting done. Then the problem compounds. And when you finally act, you've lost time, money, and momentum. Be real now. How many times have you been in this situation? Because I've been dozens. Psychopaths, on the other way, they just recognize what needs to be done and then actually do it. There's no deliberation, there's just execution. But there's a better way, which is training yourself to move at their speed by 1, recognizing what needs to be done, 2, resetting your nervous system so that it doesn't get flagged as a threat, 3, separate the decision from your identity, 4, execute, and finally, learn without any emotional spiral. This is how you speed up your progress tremendously while keeping your sanity and your integrity, because you remove the emotional friction that makes every decision like a referendum on your self-worth. The goal is to move as fast as they do without becoming them. And this is the specific protocol that you can use to rewire your brain to move as fast as a cycle without losing yourself. First is to have a physical reset. The moment you recognize a decision needs to be made, use some sort of breathwork exercise, I like box breathing, to reset your nervous system. The pattern is very simple. It's 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds out, 4 second hold. And you repeat that for 4 times. This helps you drop your heart rate and bring your prefrontal cortex, the thinking side of the brain, online again. Then step number 2 is to separate your identity from outcomes. Before gathering data, you reframe the situation in your head. You realize that the decision you're about to make is about some specific outcome. It's not about you. It's giving yourself explicit permission to actually do what you need to do. Step number 3 is to gather fact. The idea is that you collect as much fact as you need in order to make that decision. Because the more facts you have, the less uncertainty you face, therefore the less sabotage your subconscious will do to you. The goal is that you know enough to launch yourself into action. Not more, not less. Exactly what you need. Step number 4 is to actually decide, and if someone else is involved, is to actually communicate it, right? So for instance, if it's some sort of medium-stake decision, decide immediately and communicate it with your team the same day. If it's a major decision, like firing someone, hiring someone, or doing some sort of strategic pivot or whatever, sleep on it, but make the call the next day. The goal is that you get the closest you can to the simple rule that I teach every client. Every decision must be done within 1 business day. So you stop waiting for it for months at a time. Let me give you a real example of a client. Imagine you're running an agency doing 80K a month, and he had a client that was paying 4K a month. And the results for that client have been underperforming for 6 months. The ROAS was about 1.x, while every other client was at 4x. The problem is that the client has an offer that wasn't performing. But my client didn't want to fire his client because losing 4K a month felt like a failure. So he worked with him for 4 or 5 months before finally realizing that he had to make a decision about it, because his best media buyer was burning 20 hours every week trying to make that account work, only to get demoralized. So I taught him his protocol, and this is basically what he told me he had solved it. He just woke up one day, and when he was faced with the decision whether to do it or not, he did the box breathing exercise, then he pulled all the numbers. He literally understood how every hour invested in that client had gone, and he realized that he had absolutely no issue trying to make that offer work. So he called the client at 2 p.m. that day, and he gave him a final 30-day notice. And just by that, he freed up 20 hours a week of his best media buyer that he could then direct to a different client. And just with this, he went to 200K a month within the next 3 months, because he had finally made the decision to let go of something that he didn't need to be doing in order to keep space for what was next. The good thing about this is once you learn it, it compounds. Because imagine that you implement this today, right here, right now. I can guarantee you're gonna close 10 to 20 decisions that have been sitting open in your mind today. The things that you were procrastinating on, all those open loops that were robbing cognitive bandwidth. Now, once you close them, you have the ability to think strategically. And within 3 months, you are operating at a much higher level, because you now see the opportunities that were invisible before to you because you were overwhelmed. And this is how you can recover, months worth of execution time, not because you become more productive, but because literally you train yourself to time travel by closing all loops within 1 to 2 days. Every time I teach this to our clients, it's just like a huge weight is taken off their brain, and they can suddenly take on more work, suddenly become more risk prone, suddenly start doing the things they knew they need to be doing but didn't dare to actually do. And the problem with this is that every month you don't do this, you're losing ground, not to direct competitors, but to who you could be, to the best version of yourself. You move 3 to 5 to 10 times faster if you learn how to do this. And that's the difference. It's not how hard you work, it's how fast you move by closing decision loops, because you have taken control of your emotional brain. So start closing loops and start operating like a cycle without becoming one. The problem is that if you wait too long, you become the person who ruminates. You become the person who hesitates. But there's a better way. The way that every elite founder eventually discovers, which is understanding why you're stuck, rewiring the patterns keeping you stuck, and actually move forward fast every single day. If you want our help to understand the exact patterns that are keeping you stuck, book a 45-minute decoding session and we'll get to the bottom of it. The goal here is not that you outwork everybody else, it's that you out-executing by becoming clearer, more focused, more consistent, and faster. That's the edge. That's how you win. See you in the next video.